The deep black of space was streaked with the brilliant fires of war, planets and moons serving as distant, indifferent spectators to the chaos. General Vrax, commander of the Zalari Fleet's 7th Armada, piloted his damaged cruiser with grim determination, his mandibles clenched in pain and his skin slick with a mix of blood and coolant leaking from the ship's ruptured systems. The battle against the Confederation had taken a disastrous turn. Vrax's ship, the Razorwing, had sustained critical damage during a fierce skirmish designed to break the Confederation's blockade around their resource-rich moon. With his propulsion systems failing and weapon arrays offline, Vrax had made the desperate decision to flee through hyperspace, aiming for any nearby system that his failing nav computer could calculate. Terra, a small blue planet on the outskirts of Confederation territory, appeared on his screen, flagged as a neutral, underdeveloped world. It was a faint hope, a gamble driven by the need to escape rather than any strategic value. As the hyperspace window opened, the ship lurched violently, metal groaning under the stress of spatial distortion, and the general's vision blurred, his consciousness ebbing away. When he came to, the world spinning around him was not the sterile environment of a ship or a military hospital, but the vibrant, chaotic green of an alien forest. The Razorwing had crash-landed, the cockpit a crumpled mess of technology and nature fused by violence. Trees, some snapped in half by the force of the impact, lay around him, and the air was filled with the unfamiliar scents and sounds of Terran wildlife. Vrax tried to move, a groan escaping his lips as pain lanced through his torso where a piece of shrapnel had embedded itself. His vision was cloudy, his thoughts scattered. He reached for the emergency medical kit, only to find it beyond his grasp, pinned under a twisted panel. Outside, the crash had not gone unnoticed. A small group of humans, led by Dr. Nora Hammond, had been hiking in the area when they witnessed the fiery descent of the Razorwing. Armed with curiosity and a cautious courage, they approached the wreckage, their steps quiet in the underbrush. Dr. Hammond, spotting the wounded alien through the shattered cockpit, signaled her group to be silent. She approached the ship alone, her heart racing as she considered the extraordinary first contact scenario unfolding before her. As she reached the injured Vrax, their eyes met, his filled with confusion and wariness, hers with a compassionate determination. "Can you understand me?" she asked gently, knowing the likelihood of communication was slim, but compelled to try. Vrax's response was a low growl of confusion and pain, his instincts screaming at him to be wary, but his body too damaged to pose any real threat. Nora, with a steadying breath, motioned to her group for help. Together, they carefully extricated the alien commander from the wreckage and began the journey back to their makeshift field hospital, unsure of what the future held but certain they could not leave him to die. As the trees parted to reveal the stars above, Vrax's mind reeled at the impossibility of his situation. Stranded on an alien world, his life in the hands of a species he knew nothing about. Yet, as the pain ebbed away with each step towards help, a reluctant hope began to stir within him, mingling with the fear of the unknown. Dr. Nora Hammond's makeshift clinic was a collection of tents and portable equipment nestled in a clearing surrounded by towering pines. The clinic was typically used for research and occasional first aid for hikers, but today it had become a field hospital for an alien general. As her team carried Vrax on a stretcher through the camp, they drew curious stares from other researchers who had gathered, drawn by the commotion. Inside the largest tent, Nora directed her team to place Vrax gently on a reinforced table, hastily cleared of her botanical studies. She donned her medical gloves with practiced ease, her mind racing through her extensive training, none of which had covered extraterrestrial anatomy. However, the general structure of Vrax's body suggested a bilateral symmetry similar to humans, which provided a starting point for her emergency interventions. Vrax, despite his groggy state, remained acutely aware of his surroundings. The tent was filled with strange devices and unfamiliar faces, none of whom wore the uniforms of his crew. The pain from his wounds was a constant reminder of his vulnerability, making him all the more anxious about the intentions of these human beings. Nora approached him slowly, her voice calm and soothing. I'm Dr. Hammond. We're going to help you. You're very injured, but you're safe here, she explained, doubting he understood but hoping her tone conveyed her intent. Using a scanner, she cautiously assessed his injuries. The device was designed for human biology, but it gave her enough information to identify the most life-threatening injuries. A piece of shrapnel had pierced his lower abdomen, and there were multiple fractures along what she assumed were his ribs. Nora looked over to one of her colleagues, a young field medic named Javier, who stood ready with a variety of tools. "We need to stabilize him first. Let's start with removing that shrapnel and managing the bleeding," she instructed, pointing to the foreign object protruding from Vrax's side. As they worked, Vrax felt a mixture of fear and awe. The humans' medical technology was primitive compared to Zalari standards, yet their methods were effective. Nora and her team moved with a confidence that belied their lack of experience with alien physiology, their actions both gentle and decisive. Several tense hours passed, during which Nora successfully removed the shrapnel and treated the worst of Vrax's injuries using a combination of sutures and bioglue adapted from plant-based compounds. As she worked, she spoke to Vrax, explaining each step in simple terms, not knowing if he understood, but feeling it was important to keep him informed. After the surgery, Nora stood back, her fatigue settling in as the adrenaline of the moment faded. Vrax's breathing had stabilized, and while he was still weak, he was no longer on the brink of death. She allowed herself a small smile, proud of her team's work under such extraordinary circumstances. "We'll keep you here for observation," she told him, her voice gentle. "We want to make sure you recover fully." Vrax's eyes fixed on Nora, and a low rumble emanated from his throat. It took a moment for her to realize that he was attempting to speak. Straining to articulate, he managed a single gravelly word in broken English, taught by an old Zalari who had once encountered humans. "Thank you." Nora nodded, her smile widening. "You're welcome, General Vrax," she replied, realizing that this was just the beginning of a much larger dialogue, not just between her and Vrax, but potentially between their two worlds. As days turned into weeks, General Vrax's recovery progressed steadily under the careful supervision of Dr. Nora Hammond and her team. The clinic became a place of frequent curiosity and guarded diplomacy, as more humans learned of the alien presence among them. Meanwhile, Vrax struggled with the slow mending of his body and the even slower process of understanding his hosts. Marcus, a soldier-turned-temporary security officer at the clinic, took it upon himself to bridge the communication gap. With a basic translator device finally implemented, which crudely interpreted Vrax's vocalizations into English and vice versa, the two began exchanging simple phrases. Marcus, with his patient demeanor and a genuine curiosity about Vrax's culture, slowly earned the alien general's trust. One afternoon, as Marcus attempted to teach Vrax some human customs, the general's frustration peaked. Misinterpreting a gesture meant to signify peace, Vrax perceived it as a similar Zalari signal for challenge. His sudden aggressive stance alarmed the staff, causing a brief but intense standoff. Marcus, realizing the misunderstanding, quickly lowered his hand and stepped back, showing open palms. "No threat, Vrax. Peace, not challenge," he clarified, speaking slowly. The translator hummed, converting his words into a form Vrax could comprehend. Vrax relaxed slightly, his breathing heavy as he processed the situation. "Your symbols, difficult," he rumbled, the translator emitting a choppy version of his thoughts. "Yes, learning each other's ways can be hard. But we want to understand you, help you," Marcus responded, his tone calm and inviting. Over the next few hours, they revisited the misunderstanding, with Marcus carefully explaining human gestures and their meanings, while Vrax shared some basic Zalari signs. Their sessions became a regular part of the day. Vrax, intrigued by the humans' eagerness to learn, began to share more about his own culture, his role as a general, and the reasons behind his presence on Earth. He learned that Earth was neutral and technologically primitive compared to the Zalari Empire, a fact that both reassured and baffled him. One day during their language exchange, an alarm sounded throughout the camp. Vrax's instincts kicked in, and before Marcus could stop him, the general sprang up, his wounds protesting painfully. He stumbled out of the tent, seeking the source of the threat, only to find a group of humans encircling a drone that had been spying on the camp. Nora approached, her expression tense. "It's a surveillance drone, likely military. They know you're here, Vrax," she explained, looking at him with concern. The presence of the drone was a stark reminder of the implications of harboring an alien general. Vrax understood the gravity of the situation, his mind racing with strategic calculations. If his people were aware of his location, it was only a matter of time before they came for him, possibly considering Earth as collateral in their quest to retrieve or eliminate him. "I must leave, for your safety," Vrax announced gravely, turning to Nora and Marcus. "My people will come. They bring destruction." Marcus stepped forward, his resolve clear. "Let us help you, General. We can protect this place. Work together." The suggestion was bold, and for a moment Vrax considered it. His gaze shifted between Nora and Marcus, weighing his options. His time among humans had shown him their capacity for kindness and bravery, traits he admired. With a nod, he accepted their offer, his decision marking a pivotal moment in his stay on Earth. "We prepare together," he declared, the translator barely keeping up with his renewed vigor. "Teach me more of your ways, and I will share my knowledge. Together, we stand stronger." In the ensuing days, the atmosphere in the clinic camp transformed from one of cautious isolation to strategic preparation. General Vrax, Dr. Nora Hammond, and Marcus worked closely together, combining their expertise to prepare for any potential threats. Vrax, now somewhat fluent in English thanks to the translation device and his sessions with Marcus, provided detailed information about Zalari tactics and technology. Nora facilitated a series of meetings with other human scientists and military advisors who had been discreetly brought in to consult on the situation. These meetings were held under the strictest security to prevent any leaks that could provoke a premature confrontation with Zalari forces. Vrax found these exchanges fascinating, witnessing a collective human effort that was both innovative and resourceful. During one intense session in the main tent, Vrax laid out the standard operational procedures of a Zalari scout ship, the most likely first wave that would be sent after him. He explained the ship's vulnerabilities and the best strategies to counter its advanced weaponry. Marcus, meanwhile, coordinated with military personnel to adapt human technology to these strategies, devising makeshift but effective defensive systems. As they worked, a bond formed not just between individuals, but between two vastly different cultures. The humans were struck by Vrax's honor and his willingness to defend a planet that was not his own, while Vrax was continuously surprised by the humans' quick adaptability and fierce determination to protect their home. One afternoon, as they tested a new communications jammer intended to disrupt Zalari signals, an alert came through the camp's perimeter sensors. A small reconnaissance drone, not of Earth origin, had breached their airspace. It was a scout from Vrax's fleet, sent to confirm his presence. Without hesitation, Vrax took command, directing the humans on how to capture the drone without damaging it. Using the jammer, they successfully disabled the drone and retrieved it for analysis. This act confirmed Vrax's commitment to his new allies and provided the human team with invaluable technology to study. In the quiet of the evening, after the day's success, Nora approached Vrax outside his tent. The alien general was staring up at the stars, a look of contemplation on his face. "You did well today, Vrax. Thank you for trusting us," Nora said, her voice sincere. Vrax turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "I have waged many wars, Doctor. I have followed orders without question. But here, with you and your people, I find myself questioning the purpose of such conflicts. You have shown me that there are other ways to resolve differences," he replied, his voice deep and thoughtful. Nora nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "Maybe together we can find a new path, not just for us, but for your people as well." Vrax looked back at the stars, then at the small blue planet that now felt like more than just a refuge. "Perhaps this is why fate brought me here," he mused aloud. The next day, news arrived that a Zalari fleet was indeed on its course to Earth, faster than anticipated. The time for preparation had ended, and the time for action had begun. Vrax, Nora, and Marcus reviewed their plans, ready to defend a planet that had unexpectedly become a battleground for a much larger conflict. As they set their plans in motion, the trio realized that the upcoming battle would test not only their strategies and defenses, but also the strength of the bond they had forged under such unusual and pressing circumstances. They were no longer just cohabitants of a small camp in the wilderness, but comrades in a fight for a shared future. The early morning air was tense as Vrax, Nora, and Marcus convened with the assembled team of military strategists and technical experts at the clinic camp. The Zalari fleet was approaching Earth's orbit, and time was of the essence. The makeshift alliance had prepared as much as they could, and now, as the sun rose, it was time to implement their defensive strategy. Vrax stood before the group, a holographic display of the approaching fleet glowing in the dim light of dawn. "The Zalari fleet is armed with high-capacity energy weapons and advanced shielding," he explained, his voice firm. "However, their arrogance may be their downfall. They will not expect a significant resistance from a technologically inferior planet." Nora, coordinating the medical and logistical support, added, "We have set up emergency medical stations and evacuation routes. All non-essential personnel have been moved to safety." Her voice was steady, despite the palpable tension in the air. Marcus, who had taken on the role of liaison between the human forces and Vrax, chimed in with tactical details. "We've rigged the northern valley with electromagnetic pulses derived from the captured drone. Once activated, they should disrupt the Zalari ship's navigational systems, giving us a window to strike." The strategy was to lure the initial scout ships into a trap within Earth's atmosphere, where their superior technology would be less effective. Human forces, using guerrilla tactics and the element of surprise, would engage the Zalari at close range, where their heavy weapons would be less maneuverable. As the first Zalari ships entered the atmosphere, the sky lit up with the glow of re-entry. Vrax's presence at the command center was both an inspiration and a stark reminder of what was at stake. He watched, his expression unreadable, as the ships descended, following the predicted path into the trap. Marcus gave the signal, and the EMP devices were activated. The sky thundered as several Zalari ships, caught off guard, lost control and veered off course. Human fighter jets, retrofitted with Zalari energy weapons from the captured drone, swooped in. The battle was fierce, with both sides taking losses, but the human forces, motivated by the chance to defend their home and inspired by Vrax's bravery, fought with relentless determination. Amidst the chaos, Vrax stayed in constant communication with the ground forces, offering tactical advice and encouragement. When a Zalari ship managed to break through the EMP zone, targeting the command center, Vrax's strategic mind was put to the test. He quickly organized a counterstrike, using a small team of drones to intercept the ship. The interception was successful, but the victory was short-lived. More Zalari ships were closing in, their commanders now aware of the trap and adapting their strategies accordingly. The battle escalated, spreading across the skies and into the nearby mountains. Throughout the long day, the human and Zalari forces clashed in a series of brutal engagements. As night fell, the tide seemed to turn in favor of Earth's defenders, thanks to the guerrilla tactics and the unexpected resilience and resourcefulness of the human fighters. As the final Zalari ship was disabled, a cheer went up among the human forces, echoing through the command center. Nora and Marcus joined Vrax, looking out over the battlefield, where the wreckage of Zalari and human machines smoldered in the moonlight. "We did it, Vrax. We actually did it," Marcus said, clapping the alien general on the shoulder. Vrax nodded, his gaze somber as he surveyed the damage. "Yes, you defended your home. But this is only the beginning. The Zalari will not give up so easily." Nora looked between them, her resolve hardening. "Then we'll be ready. Whatever it takes, we'll defend Earth. And maybe, just maybe, we can convince your people that there's a better way than war." The trio stood together in silent agreement, aware that the battle won tonight was but the first of many. Yet, in this victory, a new hope was born. A hope for peace and a future where humans and Zalari could coexist. As they prepared for the challenges ahead, they knew they faced them together, united by a bond forged in battle and strengthened by shared ideals. In the aftermath of the successful defense against the initial Zalari assault, the alliance between General Vrax, the humans at the clinic, and the broader Earth Defense Forces solidified. Each day brought deeper integration of tactics and technology, with Vrax continuing to share crucial insights into Zalari warfare, which in turn enhanced the human response capabilities. Marcus, now recognized as a key figure in the coordination efforts, worked tirelessly alongside Vrax. Their relationship had evolved into a mutual respect that surpassed any initial mistrust, turning them into both comrades and strategists. Together, they drilled troops, refining human combat techniques with alien strategies that Vrax knew would be effective against his own kind. During one such training session, an urgent alert interrupted the relative calm that had settled over the camp. Reconnaissance had spotted a small squadron of Zalari ships attempting to infiltrate Earth's atmosphere from a less defended quadrant. Marcus and Vrax immediately mobilized a response team, their roles clear and actions swift. As they approached the engagement zone, Marcus piloted one of the newly outfitted jets, a hybrid of Earth and Zalari technology. Vrax, though not a pilot, provided real-time tactical advice from the ground via comlink. The sky above them roared as human pilots, now adept at alien combat maneuvers, engaged the enemy with surprising agility. The battle was intense, with each side unleashing a fury of energy weapons and strategic maneuvers. Amidst the chaos, Marcus's jet was hit, the system's warning of critical damage. With quick thinking, he managed to eject, parachuting into the dense forest below. Vrax, monitoring the situation, felt a surge of concern for his friend. He commandeered a vehicle and, with a small team, raced to the site where Marcus had landed. They found him entangled in the branches of a tall pine, but otherwise unharmed. The relief on Vrax's face was visible even to the human soldiers accompanying him, a rare display of emotion from the stoic general. "Seems like I owe you one," Marcus joked as they helped him down, trying to lighten the mood despite the ongoing battle raging in the skies. Vrax grunted, a sound Marcus had learned to recognize as amusement from the otherwise reserved alien. "We are even. You owe me nothing," Vrax replied, clapping Marcus on the back with a force that spoke volumes of their forged bond. The quick rescue meant Marcus could rejoin the fight. Together, they headed back to command, where Vrax coordinated a counteroffensive that successfully repelled the Zalari squadron. It was a close victory, one that highlighted both the strengths and vulnerabilities of Earth's defenses. That evening, as they reviewed the day's events, Nora joined them, her presence a comforting constant. "You two make quite the team," she observed, her tone warm but her eyes serious as she regarded the digital map displaying their defensive perimeters. "We learn from each other," Marcus responded, glancing at Vrax with a respectful nod. "Every battle, every strategy session, it strengthens our resolve and our unity." Vrax nodded in agreement, his gaze lingering on the map. "True unity," he mused, "is formed in the crucible of conflict. We Zalari say that the bond formed in battle is unbreakable. Today, I believe it." As they prepared for the inevitable next wave of Zalari attacks, the bonds formed among the camp, between human and alien, soldier and scientist, grew only stronger. Their shared experiences, the trials of war, and the victories they celebrated together wove a fabric of camaraderie that no single battle could tear apart. The group knew that the war was far from over, and that more challenges lay ahead. But with each passing day, they not only fortified their defenses but also solidified the trust and friendship that had become their greatest weapon against the looming threats. They were ready to face whatever came next, together, as allies bound by battle and a shared commitment to protect Earth. With their bonds strengthened and their tactics increasingly refined, General Vrax, Marcus, and the rest of the Earth defense team prepared for a bold initiative that would take the fight directly to the Zalari. Based on intelligence gathered from the previous skirmishes, they planned a daring mission to infiltrate a Zalari scout ship that had entered a geosynchronous orbit above Earth. The goal was to capture the ship, gain valuable intelligence, and potentially turn the tide of the ongoing conflict. Vrax meticulously outlined the plan in the command tent, with Nora and Marcus at his side. "The scout ship is lightly manned but heavily automated," he explained, pointing at the holographic display showing the ship's layout. "If we can disable the automation core, we can take control of the ship with minimal resistance." Marcus, who had become proficient in piloting the hybrid jets, was selected to lead the aerial insertion. A small team of Earth's best soldiers, trained in both human and Zalari combat techniques, would accompany him. Vrax, still not fully accustomed to Earth's gravity and atmosphere, would coordinate the mission from the ground. The night of the operation was tense with anticipation. As Marcus and his team suited up, Nora administered last-minute medical checks. "Be careful," she urged, her voice thick with concern as she handed Marcus an enhanced medkit. "We need all of you back here." Under the cover of darkness, the team launched from a secluded airbase, ascending rapidly to rendezvous with the orbiting Zalari ship. The Earth below was a patchwork of light and shadow, a silent witness to the unfolding drama above. The approach was tense, with Marcus piloting the jet close to the Zalari ship, evading its sensor sweeps. Once in position, the team used specialized grappling equipment to latch onto the ship's hull and made their way to a maintenance hatch that Vrax had identified as a vulnerable entry point. Inside, the ship was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, all bathed in the cold, blue light characteristic of Zalari technology. Marcus led his team through the ship with precision, guided by Vrax's instructions piped through their comms. They encountered minimal resistance, neutralizing the few Zalari crew members quickly and quietly. Reaching the automation core, the team set about planting explosive charges that would disable the ship's systems. As they worked, Marcus kept a wary eye on the time, aware that every second increased the risk of discovery. Just as they completed the placement of the charges, an alarm blared through the ship. "They know we're here," Marcus said into his comm, his voice calm despite the surge of adrenaline. "Charges set. Moving to exfil point." The team hastened back to their entry point, the ship now alive with the sound of alarms and the clatter of approaching Zalari reinforcements. They repelled a skirmish with a squad of Zalari soldiers, their training allowing them to hold their own despite being outnumbered. As they reached the hatch, Marcus looked back to see more Zalari converging on their position. "Go, I'll cover the retreat," he shouted over the din, firing his weapon to hold back the advancing enemy. Reluctantly, the team climbed out of the ship, returning to the safety of their jet, while Marcus continued to lay down covering fire. Just as he prepared to make his own escape, an explosion rocked the ship. His team had remotely detonated the charges, successfully disabling the automation core. The explosion provided the distraction Marcus needed. He sprinted to the hatch, leaping out just as the ship began to drift out of control. His team, waiting in the jet, quickly maneuvered to catch him as he floated in space, pulling him aboard amidst cheers and relief. As they returned to Earth, the dawn was breaking, casting a new light on their bold mission. They had not only succeeded in capturing valuable Zalari intelligence, but had also demonstrated the effectiveness of their united front. Back at the command center, Vrax greeted them with a rare smile, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. "Today you have not just struck a blow against our enemies," Vrax said, his voice resonant with pride. "You have proven that courage and unity can defy the odds. This ship and the secrets it holds will pave the way for our victory." The team's success marked a turning point in the conflict, igniting a new hope among the Earth's defenders that peace might finally be within reach. Following the successful mission to infiltrate and disable the Zalari scout ship, morale among the Earth Defense Forces was at an all-time high. The captured technology and intelligence data proved to be a treasure trove of information, offering insights into Zalari tactics, communication protocols, and even potential weaknesses in their fleet configurations. General Vrax, using this new information, devised a plan that could potentially end the conflict. He proposed a bold strategy: to use the captured Zalari ship as a Trojan horse to send a message of peace and dissent among his own people, broadcasting the truth about the Earth's resistance and the possibility of coexistence. In the command center, a large screen displayed the Zalari fleet in orbit, a constant reminder of the looming threat. Vrax, alongside Nora and Marcus, reviewed the final details of the broadcast before it was sent. This message must reach the right ears, those of my people who, like me, have grown weary of endless conquest, Vrax explained, his voice tinged with a mix of hope and solemnity. Nora looked at Vrax, her expression supportive. This could change everything, Vrax, not just for Earth but for your people too. It's a message of peace, one I believe many are ready to hear. With the plan set, Marcus and a team of technicians worked to configure the communication systems of the captured ship to bypass Zalari security protocols. The ship, now disguised as a returning scout vessel, would transmit a powerful signal to the Zalari command, carrying Vrax's message across space. The broadcast began with Vrax standing before a simple backdrop, the Earth visible behind him through a viewport. "People of Zalari," he started, his voice steady and commanding. "I am General Vrax, once a loyal servant of our empire. Today I speak to you not as a general, but as a citizen who sees the possibility for a different path." He continued, detailing the bravery and resilience of Earth's people, their willingness to defend but also to forgive. He spoke of the unnecessary losses on both sides and the potential for peace, a peace built on mutual respect and understanding rather than subjugation and war. As the message played out, the response was immediate and dramatic. Across Zalari-controlled space, the broadcast sparked debates and discussions. Some dismissed Vrax as a traitor, others saw him as a visionary. Crucially, it ignited a movement among those who had long doubted the Empire's path, but had never dared to voice their dissent. Back on Earth, the team monitored the effects of the broadcast, tracking the communications among the Zalari ships. To their relief and surprise, several ships began to withdraw from their aggressive positions, while others openly questioned their orders. It was clear that Vrax's message had sown confusion and conflict within the ranks. "This is it," Marcus said, watching the screen as the fleet's formation began to fracture. "It's working, Vrax. You've done it." Vrax nodded, his usual stoic expression giving way to a faint smile. "It is only the beginning," he said. "True change takes time, but this is the spark we needed." In the following days, as the Earth Defense Forces stayed on high alert, more reports came in of defections and ceasefires from the Zalari fleet. Diplomatic channels opened and talks began, tentative at first but growing in confidence as both sides saw the potential for an end to hostilities. Nora, Vrax, and Marcus found themselves not just defenders of Earth, but pioneers of a new diplomacy that sought to bridge the gap between two vastly different cultures. The broadcast had not only disrupted a military siege, but had also paved the way for a broader dialogue, one that promised a future where Earth and the Zalari might share the stars in peace rather than conflict. In the wake of General Vrax's groundbreaking broadcast, the political landscape within the Zalari Empire began to shift dramatically. Several high-ranking officers and influential figures who had quietly harbored doubts about the ongoing conflict now stepped forward, inspired by Vrax's call for peace. This faction, calling themselves the Reformists, sought to engage directly with Earth, proposing a ceasefire and negotiations for a lasting peace. On Earth, the news of these developments brought a mix of excitement and skepticism. The defense forces, while relieved at the prospect of an end to hostilities, remained vigilant, aware that not all Zalari shared the Reformists' views. Meanwhile, Vrax, Nora, and Marcus found themselves at the center of a new kind of challenge: diplomacy. Vrax was instrumental in opening dialogues between Earth's leaders and the Reformists. Using the captured Zalari ship as their meeting venue, they hosted a series of talks that aimed to bridge the vast cultural and political divides. Vrax, with his deep understanding of both Zalari and human perspectives, acted as a mediator, translating not just words but intentions and cultural nuances. During one significant meeting, a Zalari delegate named Commander Salon expressed her support for peace but voiced concerns about Earth's defensive actions. "Your people fought bravely but also fiercely," she stated, her tone cautious yet respectful. "How can we be sure that peace is truly what you desire and not just a tactic to gather strength?" Marcus, who had developed a keen sense for intercultural communication, replied, "Our defense was a response to an attack, not a desire for war. What General Vrax has shown us, and hopefully what we can show you, is that our strength lies not in conquest, but in our ability to stand together in defense of our home, and now, in peace. The dialogue was tense but constructive, with Nora providing insights into the humanitarian aspects, emphasizing the shared values and common grounds, such as the desire for stability and prosperity. Both our peoples value courage and honor, she added. Let us now have the courage to honor our fallen by building a future without war. As the talks progressed, Earth's defenses remained on high alert, but the focus shifted from preparing for battle to securing peace. The reformists' influence grew stronger, and with each successful negotiation, the possibility of a lasting truce became more tangible. Unexpectedly, the peace talks were bolstered by another faction within the Zalari Empire. A group of scientists and philosophers, long marginalized for their criticisms of the Empire's expansionist policies, came forward to support Vrax's vision. They provided crucial support, arguing not from a military standpoint but from ethical and sustainable perspectives, which resonated with many younger members of the Zalari political spectrum. The combination of military reformists and intellectual advocates for peace created a powerful coalition that began to reshape Zalari policies. Proposals for demilitarization, shared technology programs, and cultural exchanges were put forward, ideas that just months before would have been dismissed as fanciful. Back on Earth, these developments were followed closely, with broadcasts and updates regularly shared with the global population. Humanity's collective hope for peace grew, fueled by the real, tangible progress being made above them in space. As the first official peace treaty took shape, a grand ceremony was planned to be held both on Earth and the Zalari flagship, simultaneously broadcasted across both worlds. Vrax, standing beside Nora and Marcus as they prepared for the ceremony, felt a profound sense of change. "We are on the verge of something remarkable," he said, looking out at the stars. "Not just for our two peoples, but for all beings who might one day look up and choose peace over war." The anticipation of the peace treaty signing brought a solemn but hopeful atmosphere to the Earth Defense Forces and all of humanity. The prospect of turning their former adversaries into allies and building a joint future was a testament to the unpredictable but transformative power of understanding and respect. This new alliance promised not just to end a war, but to begin a new era of interstellar cooperation. Despite the strong strides towards peace, not all were willing to lay down their arms. A faction within the Zalari ranks, loyalists to the old regime and opposed to the reformists' push for peace, mobilized for a final desperate strike against Earth. Their goal was to derail the peace process and reassert the dominance of the traditional militaristic leadership. As the Zalari flagship approached Earth to sign the peace treaty, the Loyalist fleet launched their surprise attack, aiming to seize control of the flagship and eliminate the reformist leaders. On Earth, the sudden escalation caught the defense forces off guard, but thanks to the intelligence provided by the reformists, they were not entirely unprepared. Marcus, leading the aerial defense, scrambled fighter jets equipped with hybrid technology derived from the previous Zalari encounters. The sky once again became a battlefield, with the future of both species hanging in the balance. Vrax, aboard the Zalari flagship as an advisor and mediator, found himself in a precarious position. With the Loyalist forces boarding the ship, he donned his old general's armor and prepared to defend the peace he had helped to foster. "To the bridge," he commanded a mixed group of reformist soldiers and human volunteers who had accompanied him. "We must protect the leaders and the treaty at all costs." As the battle raged in space, Nora coordinated the medical and evacuation efforts from the ground. The Earth defense installations, fortified by Zalari technology and human ingenuity, held strong against the Loyalist onslaught, but the real danger was aboard the flagship, where the treaty was to be signed. The corridors of the Zalari flagship turned into war zones, with Vrax leading the defense. His experience and strategic acumen were crucial as he orchestrated a series of countermeasures to slow the Loyalist advance. Each corridor and junction became a tactical point that Vrax used to his advantage, showcasing his transformation from a Zalari general into a defender of peace. Meanwhile, in the skies above Earth, Marcus piloted his jet through a maelstrom of fire and debris. Communicating with Vrax via their tactical link, he directed Earth's defenses to focus on intercepting any reinforcements trying to join the Loyalist fleet. "We hold them here," he broadcast over the comm, his voice a beacon of resolve for his squadron. Back on the flagship, the battle reached a critical juncture as the Loyalist forces breached the central command room. Vrax and his team were waiting, having set a trap with the help of the ship's advanced security systems. As the Loyalists entered, they found themselves caught in a disabling energy net, effectively capturing them without significant bloodshed. With the Loyalist leaders subdued and their forces in disarray, the reformist Zalari and human forces quickly regained control of the situation. The flagship, secured once more, resumed its position above Earth, a symbol of the enduring commitment to peace. The decisive battle not only thwarted the Loyalist coup, but also demonstrated the unshakable resolve of the reformists and their Earth allies. The peace treaty was signed as planned, broadcasted live across both worlds, sealing the commitment to a shared future. Vrax, standing beside the Zalari and human leaders, felt a surge of pride and hope. "This treaty is not just a document," he proclaimed during the signing ceremony, "but a promise of a better future for all our children, built on the foundations of understanding, respect, and shared courage." As celebrations erupted both on Earth and across the Zalari territories, Vrax, Nora, and Marcus looked on. They had been through trials of fire and war, but their unlikely friendship and combined efforts had helped forge a path to peace. The legacy of their bravery and diplomacy would be remembered as the cornerstone of a new era for both their peoples. In the peaceful aftermath of the decisive battle and the signing of the treaty, Earth and the Zalari Empire entered a new era of cooperation. The cessation of hostilities allowed for a deepening of cultural exchanges, joint scientific endeavors, and the beginning of interstellar trade agreements. The scars of war were still visible, both on the landscapes and in the hearts of those who had fought, but a hopeful optimism began to pervade among the populations of both worlds. General Vrax, now widely regarded as a hero and a visionary peacemaker, took on a new role as an ambassador for interstellar relations. His deep understanding of both Zalari and human cultures made him an invaluable asset in navigating the complexities of this new diplomatic landscape. Nora, having witnessed firsthand the toll that the conflict had taken on individuals from both sides, spearheaded an initiative to create a comprehensive interstellar medical exchange program. This program aimed not only to share medical knowledge and technology, but also to ensure that the physical and psychological wounds of the conflict could be healed more effectively. Marcus, whose leadership and bravery had been crucial in the defense of Earth, was promoted to head a new department focused on defense and military training. His experience with hybrid technology and tactics was crucial in developing a curriculum that combined the best of human and Zalari military strategies. This program not only prepared both species for potential future threats, but also fostered mutual understanding and respect among the military ranks. On a bright, clear day, several months after the treaty signing, Vrax stood beside Nora and Marcus at the inauguration of the Interstellar Peace Park, a sprawling green space that included memorials, educational centers, and recreational areas. This park was built on Earth near the site of the first major battle, serving as a symbol of the journey from conflict to reconciliation. As we stand here today, we remember those who have fallen, we honor those who have fought, and we celebrate the peace we have achieved, Vrax addressed the gathered crowd, his voice resonant and steady. This park is not just a reminder of the past, but a beacon for our future. Nora took the podium next, her speech focusing on the human and Zalari families that had been affected by the war. Today, we share not only our knowledge and resources, but our stories and our lives. This park will serve as a place of learning, where future generations can come to understand the importance of peace and the strength it takes to maintain it. Marcus spoke last, his tone imbued with the pragmatic optimism that had characterized his military career. Here, we merge our paths, not as two separate races, but as allies, friends, and partners. Let this park be a training ground for our children, to play, to learn, and to grow together under the banner of peace. The inauguration was attended by dignitaries from both Earth and the Zalari Empire, symbolizing the strong alliance that had been forged. The day was filled with cultural performances, joint military displays of solidarity, and academic presentations that highlighted the collaborative projects underway. As the celebrations continued into the evening, Vrax, Nora, and Marcus took a quiet moment to walk through the park, reflecting on their journey. The paths they walked were lined with trees from both Earth and Zalari planets, their leaves rustling softly in the wind, a serene sound that underscored the peaceful silence that had replaced the sounds of battle. "This peace, hard-won and precious, is our legacy," Vrax remarked, looking at his friends. "We must guard it, nurture it, and teach it to those who come after us."